All right, welcome back to Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Chris, I just turned Twitter on. People are going nuts over your jacket. Not only your jacket, but the jacket-tie combination. Eric Rich just tweeted us. He said, I don't know. I thought you guys planned a tie jacket. First thing I thought 5 seconds into the show, I'm going to have to borrow that jacket one day.
I mean, you can have it, but I'd prefer you wear a green tie underneath it so you can get all the Barney the Dinosaur jokes that I always get when I go with this combination, which have not let me down tonight either. I got at least one Barney picture and probably more now. But you are welcome to borrow this whenever you would like to fully embrace the Concord grape lifestyle, Richie.
All right, so I'm going to get back to something you brought up a little bit earlier, and something that I thought was important what Kevin Colbert said today in the draft, that if there was a guy that opted out and a guy that played, he's going to lean towards the guy that played. Do you agree with that? He said he wants a player, someone that wants to play football, and if guys played football, he thinks that they would lean in that direction. Now, the first thing I thought of was maybe one of those guys had a family member or something like that they couldn't play, or they were worried.
I think Caleb Farley, now correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's Caleb Farley, had at least one family member die of COVID. So I think it comes off, you could argue it comes off a little insensitive by Colbert. I don't think he necessarily means it to be that way, but it might not be a great look in that sense. But I just think, like, from a beyond that standpoint, and it seems like I inferred it the same way you did, Richie, that it's more of a want to play football kind of vibe. And I remember after Jason Worlds abruptly retired, I had a chance to talk to Kevin Colbert, and he said, yeah, we've got to sort of rethink or take a closer look at how we evaluate whether or not these guys love football. In that realm, I don't love it. I think that if you've got two comparable players and one that opted out, just hypothetically, and one that didn't, it would be ridiculous to say, well, this guy maybe loves football more, so he's the better choice for us, even if he's the inferior player. I'm not saying these two are necessarily, for example, comparable players. I think one's clearly better. But say Rashawn Slater from Northwestern, who opted out and watched his stock go up. Say he was around and Darisaw was around, right? Are you telling me that if they had them comparably rated on their board, they'd go with Darisaw because he played, even though most people think Slater's a little better? I would hope not. So I would hope that it's something that really doesn't come up and is a pretty negligible sort of dynamic on their draft.
You know, I mean, I think one realistic possibility would be Farley and Surtain, Patrick Surtain from Alabama. They both could potentially.
Surtain's not going to be there, though.
Well, don't you think that
are they trading up?
Well, I thought he might be there 24. There's a chance, right?
I mean, there would have to be a bizarre run on a lot of other positions. I think he and J.C. Horn are pretty no doubt first two corners off the board, and I think both of those guys are going to be gone in the top 15 or so. So I'd be pleasantly stunned if Surtain fell that far. But I don't even think if it was those two, if it was he and Caleb Farley they were comparing, I don't think it would be a comparison. I think Surtain, even though he doesn't have that top drawer speed, is clearly the better pro prospect, and I don't think the Steelers would have much hesitation picking him over Farley in that scenario.
All right, let's go out to the phone lines. We got Al on Bethel Park. How you doing, Al?
Richie, my man, what's up?
Good. Thanks for calling.
Good. Chris, I'm thinking more like Don Johnson, Miami Vice. That's how you look. So I'm liking the look. But I just want to throw that out there and stuff.
When you say something like that, I want to run. I want to run so far away, Al.
Well, Don Johnson, you need the hair now, Chris. Start growing the hair out.
Yeah, Don Johnson needs this kind of hair.
I want to talk about the draft. And I think this is only my opinion. It may be far-fetched, but you know what? This is what I'm thinking. I think the Steelers are going to go more like Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Kansas City Chiefs. Wild weapons offense. That's because they brought Ben back a year away from elbow surgery. They got Juju. So I think they're going to go running back, either the guy Travis Etienne out of Clemson or Najee Harris. They're going to build a weapons-powerful offense, a half-okay defense, and they're going to try to outscore everybody. So I think they're going to go running back with Etienne or Najee Harris, and they're going to try to outscore everybody. That's my opinion.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem, Al. If you compare them to the Chiefs, maybe, the high-powered weapons works, but the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, who's one of one in terms of his talents. When you look at the Buccaneers and how they were actually built, though, last year, that was a team that was loaded to the gills on defense, especially up the middle with Devin White and Levante David. They had guys on that defensive line that were space eaters. They had great edge rushers. They had solid secondary play. And then this is the other thing. A weapons-based offense, sure, but those were guys that weren't really rookies in most cases, and they had a beefed-up offensive line that they made sure to shore up in the draft. So really, I don't look at the Buccaneers, the reigning champs, as having built their offense that way at all.
Well, Etienne would be a better fit if they're going to go in that direction than Najee Harris, but I think Najee Harris is more of a prototypical Steelers running back.
The year they won a Super Bowl, Kansas City, their defense was not that great. I'm just saying the Steelers have a great receiving core.
Top 10.
Ben's a year away from elbow surgery. He had, 30-something touchdowns, only 11 interceptions. I'm going to give you my opinion. I have no evidence to back it up. I think Etienne and Ben a year away, I'm just thinking that's the way they're going to do it. I think Etienne will do it. He's good in space. He has breakaway speed. I'm just giving you an opinion, guys.
Al, I love your opinion. I really do. But I don't know if Ben, he's not that kind of quarterback anymore, right? I don't even, is he as good? He's not as good as Tom Brady was last year, even a year away from the even a year away from the elbow surgery. I don't know what you can add around him. He's going to need one offensive lineman, but he also needs a running back that can do more.
Etienne would help them. He would help them in the pass game because I think he has way more breakaway potential, just in theory, than Najee Harris, and I think he could turn some swing passes out of the backfield into humongous plays, maybe more so than Harris could. But Ben he's just not Tom Brady in that regard. Brady was 43 years old, standing in, taking hits, and delivering the ball accurately downfield at a really high and successful clip. So it's what do you want your offense to be is really the Steelers' question. Do you want to cater to Ben with skill position players where he's still going to probably want to get the ball out because he might not trust 40% of his offensive line, or do you want to try to beef up those guys in front of him and hope that emboldens him to take more chances, hold on to the ball longer, and maybe makes your running game better just by osmosis? I know what I would do.
Yeah, I agree. But look, I want them to get a running back. That's where I think that's their biggest need on offense is a running back. They don't really have a starting running back on this team right now. And that's why I think you could get away with who's going to be on the offensive line. Maybe center is your weakest point right now. I'm going to trust Zach Banner, Chooks. I'm going to trust those two guys at tackle. I like Dotson, and DeCastro is going to be better. I thought DeCastro was kind of tuned out last year a little bit.
I think he's hurt.
Yeah.
He was hurt, though. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about the running back, Rich. This is an argument I haven't made with you, but I'll make it now. In college, if you have like a situation where you have an elite running back, I'll say Shady McCoy at Pitt when he was there, and the other team is better than your guys probably up front, so the blocking might not be perfect, he's still going against college players, so you can have a one-man band kind of make guys miss, right? Go to the second level, make more guys miss. In the NFL, it is just way, way, way harder to be a running back and have that same kind of dynamic play itself out. How many guys in the history of the league at running back, modern history, let's say, did that kind of running? Barry Sanders, and then give me another one.
Barry Sanders, but you could almost make a point that Le'Veon Bell did that. What offensive line was he running behind? The one last year?
He had Munchak there.
Yeah.
He had Munchak there coaching those guys up, which is a huge difference from what they've had. And he had Pouncey and a younger DeCastro, too. I mean, that's a pretty significant difference, I would say, at the very least, for starters.
All right, let's go out to Harry out in North Hills. How you doing, Harry? Harry, you there?
Yes. During the early 70s, the Steelers had a scout by name of Bill Nunn.
Yeah.
And the Steelers relied heavily on players from the southern black colleges and that. And with that draft, using them, they drafted more than the average of any other team and then helped them in the Super Bowl. I just think the Steelers might want to look at maybe a running back or somebody down in those smaller colleges. We're going back and forth with the Big Ten, the Big 12.
Well, there's a big difference, though. There's a big difference
down there
with today versus the 70s. Like, those schools are getting scouted way more. Like, back when Bill Nunn was doing that, like, revolutionary work, really, nobody was looking, or at least nobody was taking a close look. Now, recruiting being the way it is, I mean, everybody knows where everybody's going, and it's really hard to unearth gems like that. I think that was an advantage in the 70s. I don't think it would be one now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, there is no diamond in the rough anymore, right? I mean, at
running back, you can find them. Like, Philip Lindsay was a guy who fell through the cracks. People just said they missed. I think it's easier to miss running backs if they play on bad college teams, but they have, like, a certain skill set. But by and large, I mean, at any position, it's going to be really hard for a true diamond in the rough to manifest. Tom Brady's the greatest late-round pick, became a Hall of Famer story. The guy went to freaking Michigan. It's not like he was playing at some backwater at an A&T school somewhere.
Well, Antonio Brown said he was the best sixth-round draft pick ever. You remember that tweet?
Wait, AB called himself the best one? Yeah, buddy, the guy throwing you passes is a little bit better.
Exactly. And what about James Robinson? There's a guy right there that kind of came out of nowhere.
Undrafted free agent who actually did most of his best work last year, did all of his work really with very little in the way of an offensive line in front of him. So, I mean, that should be proof positive, Richie. I don't know why you brought James Robinson up. You're strengthening my anti-Najee Harris in the first round argument.
I'm trying to see both sides
Thank
here.
you.
I just want them to draft a running back. I wanted them to draft a running back last year. I want them to draft a running back this year. We'll see what happens. Let's go to our Tri-State Office Furniture tweet of the day. Draft a guy like him, Chris. That's what they need to do. Move up and get a Troy Polamalu because look at this, 2003. This day in 2003, they drafted arguably one of the greatest safeties in history of the NFL. Moving up to get him, too. Seemed to work out pretty well. All right, we got to take a break.
Who told you to say arguably? Did Ed Reed tell you to say arguably? He is one of the greatest safeties in the NFL.
I said arguably.
Come on.
He is one of the best safeties, arguably the best. How about that?
Well, Ronnie Lott would quibble with the latter.
Ed Reed. Yeah, there's a couple good ones out there. Back in a couple minutes.